In studio with me, I'm joined by our guest, the ED, Lenggo. How are you, Mr. Lucas?
I'm fine, and you?
I am very, very fine. How is your morning?
My morning is fine. It's only the rains.
The rains. So everyone has been affected by the rains, I think, especially if you're in the coastal region. Especially in Mombasa, we are really having it rough.
Yeah.
Did you find it rough when you were coming?
Very rough. Very rough. Water everywhere.
Water
it's
everywhere.
Impossible. We don't have drainage in our estates where we live. So it's almost impossible.
Yeah, true. And I want to... I'm thinking, is this related to data?
Yeah, it is related to data. You know, data is the mover of things. If you want to, the Department of Transport Infrastructure and Investments, they need to know how many estates do we have, how many roads do we have, what are how are the roads looking like, and if you want to, like, for example, make the roads, how much do we want to allocate to each sub-county or each ward for us to be able to do a very good infrastructure. So it is data driven.
It is data driven.
Of course.
So what if there's the data but there's nothing that is being done?
I doubt if they have the data of how many roads do we have in Mombasa County. Because if you have the data, then you can be able to plan well and say, for example, the new governor, Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir, would easily say that in my 5-year rule, I will do such and such a road in year 1, such and such a road in year 2, such and such a road in year 3, up to year 5. You can actually develop a plan, like a strategic plan on how I will be developing my infrastructure in each of the years, in each of the estates, or in each of the sub-counties. But if you, with an absence of data, it means you will be doing your development in a haphazard way. So people will not feel you, they will not see the development that you are doing, and in most cases, they will just politicize what you're doing. And then at the end of your regime, you won't be having anything to show about it. At least that is what we learned from the 10 years, the other regime. It had no data. It was clueless in terms of development. So if you even audit the amount of development that was done by the last regime, I don't think if you can get much. Yes.
Would we also attribute the drainage or the issue of drainage and floods to the number or the numerous buildings that are being set up, especially in Mombasa?
New buildings are mushrooming everywhere. We have new estates coming up everywhere. Are they planned? What is our spatial plan saying? Because, you know, the county has different plans, and one of the plans that they need to put in place is a spatial plan.
What's a spatial plan?
It's actually the plan of how you're using your land surface. How are you putting in place estates? How are you planning to put in place agricultural land, for example, industrial land, and such like planning? Yes, if you don't have that spatial plan, or if it's in place but you are not using it, or it's not data driven, then you will be in hot soup. Yeah, you will be having problems in implementing your development, especially the infrastructural development.
So this being our third episode of the data series, today we're going to talk about CIDP,
Yes.
right? We will be breaking it down for you, what it is, its importance, and some of the challenges, and also if it has helped in one way or another in the county, if it's actually being used, and how far are we as a county of Mombasa. This is the We Talk show with Lucas Fondo, the executive director of Lenggo. By the way, remind us what Lenggo is, because every time we start the show, we never say what Lenggo is.
Lenggo is means local empowerment for good governance. It's actually an abbreviation of local empowerment for good governance.
That's why we are really immersing ourselves into issues of data to be able to understand how data is important in making sure that you get the development that you need, and that the government is accountable and responsible for what we entrusted it to do. Because at the end of the day, if you as the local citizen is not empowered to know what you need to know, how are you going to know when you get development or not? You know?
Yeah.
The other day I was going home, and I was going home from some place I was, and the road was very bad. So I engaged this bike guy and asked him, hey, even though mnaishi, because by then so many roads were not flooded. It was like just that one road.
Yeah.
So today I'm even wondering how they're going to go about it, because if every other road is flooded, then that one, I'm so sure it's trying to compete with the Indian Ocean at this point. So I asked him, okay, how do you guys live around here? And he was like, tushazoea sisi hata tuoni kiwa issue. So I look at him and wonder, what? Don't you think that the leaders that you elected are responsible for this? Don't you hold them accountable?
You know, sometimes you can be used to problems until they are non-issues to you. If I may use that language. Because we think no one is can get used to problems. But if you're ignorant, then that is the way of life that you will get used to. But as a taxpayer and as a person who wakes up, who woke up on August and voted in a leader, then you need to play your role and know that actually, as a taxpayer, I pay taxes every day, and I have put this person to be my leader, to be actually the person who I can hold accountable if I'm in problems, and not the problems of niangalie sijakunywa chai. It should be the problems, communal problems that affect us, and that would once solved would actually assist our life move from one state to a better state. Yes, that is the work of the leaders that we put in place, looking around, scanning around, having interfaces with us, and ensuring that our lives are improving and not stagnating in one state. So the people who are saying they are used to that state, then I would easily say that those are ignorant people. Yes.
And you know the most, and I want you to answer this question before we go for the break, because he gave me a very interesting answer of, Hata, if we ask the area MP or the MCA right now, they'll say we elected them just the other day. So they wouldn't have done some much of the work. So I asked him, so at what point do you think you can actually hold them accountable?
But, you know, for example, development that doesn't stop, development, the budget doesn't stop. You know, the language of practitioners, we normally say that the budget is a circular spring that goes round and round and round. It doesn't stop. So resources from the exchequer are being brought for development purposes without stopping at a point saying that this is a new leader in place. So we are stopping development, we are stopping the disbursement of funds. Funds are always coming for development purposes. So if you elect a leader, you should elect a leader who understands and who knows what they are doing, so that when they just hit the office, like in day one, everything rolls in place. But if you are electing a leader who doesn't understand, then you will be hit by a situation where you will say, now I'm waiting for the leader to get used to the office, and because this leader is new, but he has some staff who are there permanently employed. Like, for example, if it's the issue of CDF, there is always the constituency manager who doesn't come. You don't have a new manager every 5 years. The manager is an employee of the government, and they stay there. They are not political elected leaders. So when you come as a new person, it doesn't mean that you are starting from zero, because there is already a person in place who is there to guide you that this is what we have been doing. And if you have your own ways, then you put them in the system, in the pipeline, and you move forward. So there is no excuse of saying that we are still new, we are still learning. There is no learning in leadership. Yes.
So what you're trying to say is you can hold them accountable as early as they are swearing in. After they are swearing in, the next day,
Yes.
what is going on?
You can go in their doorsteps and demand for services.
But do they know that? Do the leaders themselves know that?
Then it's too bad if we elect a leader who doesn't know that. Because, sometimes, huku mitaani, I see the leaders, whenever they are elected, they take time. They don't want even to be seen. They come to the neighborhoods with their windows rolled up. So why did you seek for leadership if you don't want to handle people's issues? Why did you give up yourself for that leadership post? Because you understand, if I'm giving myself for a leadership post as an MCA, you should understand that all the problems in that ward are your problems, and you become a public figure that people would be coming to your home or to your office to seek for redress to their issues. So you should have that in mind whenever you are seeking for that post, so that you are not faced with a situation where you are saying, no, I didn't envisage that you will be coming to my house at night. You are a public figure, you are a leader, and people are free to call you at midnight to address their issues. Yes.
Wow.
So you should, if you're seeking for that post, a leadership post, you should have that in mind.
A very good time to get into the conversation about what is CIDP. Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, thank you very much. CIDP, first of all, is an abbreviation of the County Integrated Development Plan. It is one of the mother plans a county has to put in place. I'm calling it a mother plan because it's the first one that the county has to put in place in its life. It serves the life of the county in the 5 years. So, and it's called integrated because it brings together very many other plans into that one document. It brings together Vision 2030, the SDG goals, Sustainable Development Goals. It brings together the spatial plan, the sector working group 10-year plans, and very many other plans, actually, and development priorities. It's actually a document which brings together development priorities for a county government for a period of 5 years. So it is a very important document. And it's important because the County Government Act, the Constitution of Kenya, says that money for development, any government cannot appropriate money for development outside a plan. And so that's why the CIDP is a very important document. And counties are required to put in place the document as a first document. Whenever the county comes into place, they need to put in place that plan to guide development and appropriation of funds for the next 5 years. Without that document, it means the county cannot actually plan for development. It cannot use money for development because it's prohibited to use money outside a plan. And the only plan, the mother plan, that is required here is the county integrated development plan. Of course, there are other smaller plans after the CIDP that actually source from the CIDP and then for appropriations of money purposes. But the CIDP is actually the mother plan. Yes.
So what happens when if we are having a new government and there's already a plan before that? So can we say that, okay, we are new in government, we've just got in, but there was a plan before we got in and we are going to use the plan that was there?
You know, the plan, the county integrated development plan expires whenever the term of the governor expires as well. So you can't say there is a plan already unless you review what was there and pick from what was not done by the former regime and bring it to the new plan. But all in all, it has to be a new plan. Yeah, because the law provides for a review of the previous CIDP, an audit of the previous CIDP. You can pick projects that were not done by the former regime or the former CIDP, and you can integrate them into this new CIDP for you to be able to implement them. For those projects to qualify for implementation, you have to pick them and input them in the new CIDP. Yeah, you cannot just spend money. Actually, it is forbidden by the law. The Public Finance Management Act, the County Government Act, and even the Constitution forbids any leader from using money outside a plan, especially the county governments. Yes.
So is it safe today to say that every county government has a CIDP as we are talking right now?
As we are talking, yes.
So,
and in Mombasa, we have a draft. And why do we have a draft in Mombasa County? It's because, if you remember, in August, our elections for the gubernatorial elections were done late because of one or two things that were explained by the Electoral Commission. And we, as members of the civil society, were the first people to say a delay in conducting the gubernatorial elections means you will be subjecting to the people of Mombasa to unnecessary delays in development. So other counties have got already a CIDP that has been approved by the county assemblies, and they have actually produced them at the national level institutions for ratification and ready to roll the budget for 2023-2024. But if you look at Mombasa, we only did public participation last week. So we don't have a CIDP that is actually approved by the county assembly. That's why the county is fast tracking the approval so that we are at par with other counties. If you look at the budget cycle, we should be at the stage where we are discussing budget estimates at this time. But for Mombasa, we are still discussing the CIDP because the CIDP has to be approved for it to be able to give way for the annual development plan, because the annual development plan is actually an extract of 1 year from the CIDP. So if you don't have that CIDP, the 5-year plan, then where will you get your 1-year plan for appropriation of funds for that development for that year? You know? So you need to have the CIDP first, and then all the other things, the other budget cycle documents fall in place because they borrow from the county integrated development plan. Yes.
So when you've talked about as Mombasa, we are in the stage of public participation. Is the public participation still going on?
No, I think it was concluded the other week.
The other week.
So I think the county now is fast tracking approval by the county assembly. And as a result, if you have looked at the papers, the county is now advertising for the county fiscal strategy paper public participation on 26th. So that means by 26th, the county assembly should have actually approved the county integrated development plan for you now to be able to pick from the county integrated development plan into an annual development plan and then into the county fiscal strategy paper that they're advertising now. So I tend to believe that they are in an advanced stage of approving the CIDP now.
So someone is asking, how comes we didn't know about any public participation in regards to the CIDP?
That's a big question and a big elephant in the room. And we from the civil society always actually demand for accountability from the county government. You know, the law says County Government Act and the County Public Finance Management Act say that they need to call for public participation for any document before it is approved for implementation. It needs to pass through public participation. And the way we've been having issues with the way the counties or the governments have been conducting their public participation, because the law says they need to publish a call to public participation in the dailies. But it also gives them powers to advertise in, for example, Blue Radio, to call for people for public participation. They can hold for example, the megaphones and mount them on vehicles and move around the neighborhoods, asking people to come out for public participation. But they rarely do that. They only do a public announcement in one of the dailies, and that's all. How many people read the dailies?
Very few people.
Very few people read
or even
the
if they're
dailies.
going to read the dailies, it's the first 2 stories and then they're
And
done.
then that's it. And one thing is that sometimes you will find the advertisement for public participation written in a very small way,
Column,
in
yeah.
a corner where you cannot easily see it. So why we normally have these questions for the county governments. Why do they, when it comes to public participation, why do they operate in secrecy? Unlike other either meetings or other processes within the county where they become proactive, they announce, and they want very many people to come. But when it comes to public participation for an important document as the CIDP or the budget, then it becomes a secret thing. So we've been having issues with that. Sometimes we go to court to ensure that we enforce accountability by the governments. But in most cases, we now employ a cohesive discussion with the county that we normally go into a round table and show them the importance of actually opening up these processes for public participation and public scrutiny. So maybe the question, why don't we have or don't we know about public participation processes? The most important person to be given this question is actually your representative, your county assembly member, or the governor. Why don't the governor open up to calls for public participation in a more open way, in a more proactive way? Why is it when it comes to public participation there is always is surrounded in secrecy, and members of the public don't know whether today it's a public participation day on this document? And if you ask them, they will say that we advertise in the dailies. But how many people read the dailies? Very few people. So you end up being deprived of your right to participate in development and in democratization of your country. Yes.
And it's very important to know that if a lot of people are not going to buy the dailies, but they're going to listen to the radio, they're going to watch the TV, they're going to be online, on Facebook, on Twitter. So I don't know. You've said we should talk to our representatives or the governor to actually incorporate this, because honestly speaking, a lot of people have actually texted saying we never knew about it. You know, and
Very true.
and even if you follow your, for example, your MCA or your member of parliament, even in their Facebook account, they're still not going to post it in their accounts. You
So
know,
someone wonders why.
exactly.
Whenever they are campaigning for elections, they are very vibrant in Facebook, in WhatsApps. They form all sorts of WhatsApp groups. But when it comes to public participation, then nothing is posted in those social media platforms. Even the county government itself has social media platforms.
And a lot of people
everywhere.
follow it because
Yes.
they assume that this is where we're going to get the information.
Yes.
But the information is not there yet. We are being told that public participation is important. We need to make the decisions. But when we come in, we're like, okay, the participation happened. We never knew about it, and we don't know what the document says and where is the document in the first place. We're talking about CIDP. And what does CIDP mean? County Integrated.
Development Plan. Yes.
And we were talking about how we, as the citizens, we Mombasa County and even the larger country, Kenya, are deprived of the right of actually participating in decision making in a lot of things. But aside from that, who actually makes or who actually plans this CIDP? Who are involved?
Very, many different players are involved in this. For example, the government is actually the main player. But apart from being given the mandate to put in place a county integrated development plan, they have to bring on board different players. Like, for example, they have to bring on board the private sector. They have to bring on board different groupings of people so that the voice of these stakeholders and people are not left behind. Different practitioners are supposed also to be brought on board. So as when because this document, it carries the heart of the county in terms of development. So you need to, as a principle of democratization or a principle of democracy, you need to bring all voices of people together, so that when you have now this integrated development plan and now you're implementing development, then you don't leave anyone behind. The principle of leaving no one behind comes into play when you are doing the county integrated development planning, because if you leave a section of people outside, then how will their issues be articulated when you are doing development? How would they receive the development that you're implementing when you've left them behind? So the government has been given a role to spearhead development, but very many other players must be included. Their voices and their views must be included. And that's why you have the law saying that you need to do public participation, because public participation is a principle of democratization. The governor or the politicians, you remember whenever they were campaigning, they were saying we will do A, B, C, D. Yeah, those were promises that they were giving out to members of the public during their campaigning period. So the law gives them a leeway to be able to input their manifestos in the county integrated development plan. Like, for example, we couldn't have finished doing the county integrated development plan without inputting the manifesto of the governor for Mombasa County, so that his promises would see the light of the day moving forward. So it brings together very many other players, even though the government has been given the most upfront mandate to spearhead that planning process. Yes.
So, someone, I've received a lot of questions. Now that we didn't participate in the public participation, how do we even get this draft or the final document, maybe when it's approved by the a county assembly, how do we get it? How do we get to know what is in it?
The principle is always transparency and accountability. And if a government is being run on transparency grounds, then they need to provide information to members of the public. And they have different ways of providing information. They can upload it, the document in their website, for example, the County Government of Mombasa website or the County Assembly of Mombasa website. They can actually upload that document in their social media handles. They can even provide those documents through the ward administrators and sub-county administrators' offices, where people can actually knock into those offices and get the documents. The MCAs can also put the document in their offices for members of the public to be able to access. Yeah, so there are very many ways that you can get this information. And if it's not there, then it's your role as a member of the public to look for it. Go to your MCA, go to your ward administrator, go to your sub-county administrator, or even prompt the governor through his Twitter handle to provide this information, because it's very critical information that you can't afford to let it go. Because the moment a larger section of the public lets go this information, then the deprivation of rights now come to play. Because you will be operating in the dark. You don't know what has been planned for development in your area, and you will now become a sycophant of a sort. And I don't think that there is any place for sycophancy in development. Yes.
So, because if we don't get the let's say the document right now, also, because I think the main question is we have never even known about the county integrated, not even the public participation. We've never even known. From what I'm getting from the comments is people do not even know about the county integrated development plan.
And I tell you why they don't know. Because the government has abandoned the role of civic educating people. The County Government Acts has placed the role of educating people, civic educating people, to the county government. So the civil society like us, we come to complement what the government is doing. Whenever we do our civic education meetings, we educate people, but the biggest role is placed under the county government. And the county government has resources. They appropriate resources every year. So why don't they put in place resources to conduct civic education for members of the public, so that to understand what the county is intending to do in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years? Yeah, sometimes you wonder, why are they not appropriating finances? And they have a whole department for civic education in Mombasa County, for example. In each of the counties, they have a department for civic education, because it's a role that has been placed by the laws that we have to the county government. So they need to appropriate functions and finances to these offices, so that they can be able to do civic education to people, so that a document like the CIDP, people would have been educated a long time ago, that the CIDP is a process of A, B, C, D, and it will start at this time and it will end at this time. Then we start implementing what we will have planned moving forward. It's a role that the county needs to play. The civic educating people is a very critical role that the counties are abandoning, and that's why you hear the people in the listeners in that comment commenting about we don't know this, we don't know that, because the county government is abandoning its role, a very key role when it comes to notifying people what it is planning for them. Yes.
So there's a comment here that is very interesting, and I think I agree with it. Then if some of these things are this important, why don't we introduce them into the school systems for students to learn them from an early age? So by the time you are becoming a citizen or an adult who can make decisions, you already know what it is to get. Because most of the times in our history and government lessons, we are taught about things that happened in the past, which is okay, but these things that really affect us and that are our responsibility go without us knowing.
Brilliant, and a good suggestion. We've been suggesting this all over the past 10 years. Why don't we introduce these things in school curriculum, whereby people will be taught in a more decent way, so that when they come out, they become informed citizens already? Why don't we have the school teaching us the whole system of governance that we have, so that whenever a pupil graduates from either primary or junior high school, now we have the new curriculum, they already understand that there will be a CIDP process, there will be an ADP process, there will be a budget making process. Why don't we introduce these things in school curriculum?
And what has been the response? Because if you have done it for 10 years, what are some of the responses that you have gotten? What are the challenges that you have gotten? And how far are you to actualizing that?
Actually, we've not actually made any headways in that. We normally give suggestions that it will be good if we introduce these things in the curriculum as well. But of course, as you know, for you to sustain a campaign, first of all, you'll be hit by a lot of bottlenecks. So we are still pushing. Yes.
Well,
some things, of course, are being discussed in schools, but not comprehensively as they should be. Yes.
So this is from what I'm getting, it's a battle that you're not about to win anytime soon.
You know, democratization and fighting for rights sometimes take long because of competing interests. When the CDF, for example, was introduced, we said it was a brilliant idea, but we have always been fighting to remove it from the control of the MP. Sometimes we win, sometimes we partially win, sometimes we don't win, we lose. So we are still, and remember, even some civil society members went to court to say that the CDF contravenes the constitution, violates the constitution in a way that you cannot be the one who is making the laws, that is the MPs are mandated to be making laws, and you're the one to implement, you know. There needs to be separation of powers. You put the law in place, another arm of the government implements, and then another arm interprets the law of separation, the principle of separation of powers. You cannot be the person who is making the laws and you're the person who is implementing them and oversighting yourself. Yeah, it completely contravenes the doctrine of separation of powers. Yeah, which is not right. And that's why the civil society went to court and they won that case. The CDF was declared unconstitutional. And now if you observe what is happening, is that when the MPs went back to Parliament, they said that they boycotted very many things because those powers to control the CDFs had been removed from them. The CDF was abolished by the courts. So what happened? This government said we will continue implementing the CDF while we are restructuring it, which is actually against the law.
And I was coming to that question, because if it's against the law, And funny enough is that, or interesting enough is that most of us as the citizens of Kenya and members of the society know that, okay, apart from being in parliament and passing the laws, the next thing, the only next role of the MP is the CDF docket.
Which is totally wrong.
So, and that's why maybe the MPs are having a hard time, and that's why they want to bring it back, because they have been riding on the CDF as a way of showing the residents or the members of the society that this is what we've been doing. So when we remove the CDF, when we take the CDF from their hands, how are they going to prove that they have been working?
But the constituency has a committee of professionals that are put in place by a professional body, because I understand nowadays you need to apply for you to be picked as a member of the CDF committee. But because the MP is there, normally manipulates and gets his people to sit as the CDF committee members. So he still has a very big role and a very big voice in CDF. Because they say that we are only patrons and we don't interfere with what we implement. But, it's not supposed to be that. They need to be completely hands-off and leave alone the professionals, that is the CDF committee, to implement the CDF as it is, and not because there is a fund manager as well who is employed by the national government to manage the fund on behalf of that constituency. So we don't see the role of the area MP unless he just wants to show people that he is working. And you don't have to contravene the constitution for you to be seen that you're working. Can they actually stick to their roles? 3 roles: legislation, representation, and oversight. So leave these committees alone to implement, and then you come to oversight and say that you implemented this project in a wrong way. For example, if there is corruption, you point out at the corruption and demand for the corrupt people to be taken to task. So why do you always want to be the one doing it? Is it because staying near to money is staying near to power? You see, those are some of the questions that we normally ask ourselves. That the MPs only want to be near this fund for them to be able to loot it.
And I think some of the lessons or courses that need to be added in the civic education is the roles of these leaders that we elected, because I think we have really, really gotten it wrong for a very long time, that we forget that even the work of the MP is not to make that road. It's for him to legislate, represent you, and offer oversight. So when he comes to tell you, I have put in the effort and I have worked, he's coming to tell you that this road, the road that was built in your area, was supposed to be built using 200 million, but they used 300 million. So we are actually trying to get where the 100 million shillings went.
That is his role, yes. As an oversight person, he's supposed to tell us, was this road now built according to standards? Did it go according to how it was planned? And he needs to work it around with the people now or in the neighborhoods who are now beneficiaries of that project. But the MP wants to do it himself. He wants to put in place the contractor. He wants to control the committee on who to work in that road or not. So it raises a lot of questions and eyebrows on what's their interest in CDF. Because if the fund is there and the MPs are not there, actually they will do the oversight role more independently than if they are the ones who have created the CDF law, they're the ones giving themselves money, and they're the ones oversighting themselves. Yeah. And it can't be that.
Yeah, it's contradicting.
Yes.
And it is 12 minutes to 1 p.m. It's a very good time for us to start winding up. So we're going to look at a very quick importances of the CIDP. Why is it very important? And some of the challenges that come up with trying to implement the things highlighted in the CIDP as we wind up.
The first challenge is the secrecy around that document. Very many of of our listeners today are saying that we don't even know the process. So that's a very big challenge. If you want to put in place a pro people document, then you need to let them know that we have these beautiful plans that we are planning, and you invite them to come and plan together so that they become the beneficiaries who are informed that this is what we planned and this is what we are getting. But if you leave them behind, then how do you expect them to even interact in that plan with that plan? They will not be in a position to plan. So one of the biggest challenges is the access to information and the access to those documents. That is one big drawback. That yes, we have this beautiful plan, but who knows it? It exists. Yeah.
So even if it's not implemented, no one will question about.
No one knows. No one will question. So I think that is a fallback strategy for them, because they are not sure whether they will implement it, whether they want to loot the money, and people will still not know that this project was planned to be implemented at our... if I know, I will always be demanding. We said that this road will be done. This Cabro road outside here will be done. Why is it not being done? So we will always be up in arms demanding. And if we don't know, if the leader keeps it a secret, it means we will not know. So he will end up looting the money and you won't know. And that's why we have these leaders who are very wealthy, yet they're not businessmen, they are just leaders. Yeah, because I don't think what they earn warrants them to become the wealthy people they are. Then another challenge is maybe getting finances to finance the plan. You put up an ambitious plan, and then you put up ambitious projections. These plans that we are putting in place, most of them are financed through our taxes. So if you are putting up a plan for constructing roads worth 100 billion, then you need to have a projection that you will collect that 100 billion from members of the public, because the development that is being done by the members of the public themselves. It's not actually you as a leader who is giving them that development. It's actually their taxes that are being collected, and then they will be appropriated to do the roads or to do. And if it's a loan that was taken from Japan or China, as we are currently being faced with that situation, it is us as members of the public who will pay. So it's actually our taxes, and we need to actually demand accountability in how these taxes are being implemented. So if you don't make us participate, you don't provide information, you don't actually appropriate finances in a good way, you project that you will collect 5 billion as it has been the issue with Mombasa County, and yet in practice you are always collecting 3 billion, then what will happen to the deficit? It means that you will not achieve that development that you are projecting to develop. Yeah, so those are some of the challenges. The importance of planning is actually making us aware that our issues are, if you want to know the commitment of a government in implementing development, is through its policies and the way they appropriate financing. So if we understands what is being planned in this county integrated development plan, and we see under the annual development plans that they are appropriating money in favor of what we want, then we know that this government means well for us, you know. So if you remove us from the picture, then it means you are implementing your own things. And that's why it is important that we have a forecast of activities and events and the services that we need to receive in the 5-year lifespan of the government. This is actually making us aware, planning ahead of ourselves, saying that in this 5-year plan, for example, in water, we want to reach this number of people. That's where data comes in. We want to reach these estates. They don't have water, and we want to reach them with the piping and everything. We want to reach them. Every year we will be reaching this number of people with water. Every year we will be reaching this number of people with access to roads, with access to health services. We want to construct more health facilities because we have a growing number of population in this area who are not accessing healthcare, our health facilities. So we want to construct 2 or 3 new health facilities. So that's where data comes in, and that's why it is important that the government involves us to plan on what development and services we need to see them implementing. Because why are we doing that? It is our taxes. Yes, so it's not their money. Money is not falling from heaven. They're actually collecting from us, and they should involve us in actually doing the development and in the planning processes.
The last question as we wind up, it is 5 minutes to 1 p.m. So the county integrated development plan is there. It has gone through the public participation. It has been approved. At what point can it be revised by the before the 5-year period is over?
It's revised annually.
Oh, it's revised annually.
Because you have the plan, the 5-year plan. Then the Public Finance Management Act says before any budget is done, you pull 1 year from that CIDP, bring it for public participation. People will validate if they still need those projects or the services that they said we need them when they were preparing the CIDP. If they say we want to change here, you know, that is how they amend the CIDP progressively in the 5 years. Yes.
Okay.
So if, for example, we said we wanted water in a place like Mwakirunge, for example, if I can give that example, then a donor comes and puts up a pipe in Mwakirunge. Then when the annual development plan is pulled out of the CIDP and it's brought for public participation, we will let them know that a donor has already put up a pipe here and we are already accessing water. So this money can be used to do another thing. But if you don't do that process for annual development plan, then you will be implementing projects that are being duplicated because a donor already has put up a hospital. Because a hospital is provided for in the CIDP, then you go and put up another hospital there. Yeah, that's why you pull up 1 year, you bring it for public participation for people to amend, and then you proceed with the implementation.
So even with the CIDP, we'll still have after a year, we're going to hold the government account. We're going to ask them, okay, in this 1 year now, this is what you've done, this is what you haven't done, this is what we're going to amend to make sure that we get the development we need by the end of your tenure.
Maybe in our follow-up program, I will take you through how the county budgets.
It's a very important process.
Because the 5-year plan CIDP is divided into 5 different years. For example, each department, they have put up what they will do in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 in all the departments of the county. So when the year begins, when we reach June, the budget process begins, they are mandated to pull that 1 year, to pull out that 1 year from the CIDP. Then they are being asked to bring it for public participation so that people can amend. They can say, we no longer need a health facility because Medicine Frontiers have constructed a health facility. So we need more beds in that health facility or more drugs in that health facility.
Okay.
Yes.
That has been a very hot conversation here at We Talk. So make sure you send in your questions. We will look at them the next time we meet. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much for coming and educating us about the CIDP. A lot of people are saying we didn't even know that exists. And this shows how important this talk is and how important we need to educate the society.